we doing it out loud or?
Awesome. There we
No, it's
go.
live.
The stream is now live. We're waiting on that, so that's a good sign. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to our kind of quick session today around the 3 top asked questions that we get working in sustainability. So we've got 2 amazing people with us today, Laila and Ciaran from Sustainable Pathways, and they will introduce themselves when it comes to asking their particular question that they get asked a lot. So we have obviously listed what those questions are that we're going to chat about today, and we're going to jump straight in because we know it's a Friday afternoon and we know you want to get off to enjoying your Friday evening. So straight up to you, Laila, with the question that you get asked most.
Perfect. Well, with my background in supply chain and a lot of work that we have done with small businesses, one of the very, very frequent questions I get is, how do you engage your supply chain towards sustainability? And I guess the 2 things that I've shared recently were, one, really showcase how this can be a collaborative piece of work and how you can become sustainable together. So sometimes, especially with smaller businesses, you have partners that have been with you for 10, 20 years, and actually everybody's kind of in the same place. Everybody's trying to understand what they need to do. And this is an opportunity for you to work together to understand how you, as somebody that's procuring a service and the person that's selling it, can find a way to be sustainable together. That really leads to a reduction of risk from both sides, and it actually allows the person that's supplying it to know that the customer will buy their service, even if it becomes a little bit more expensive, as they are trying to make it as sustainable as possible. And my second one that's worked really well in multiple organizations that I have seen is to create some type of supplier recognition program. So with badges, with a tiering, because one, that generates a little bit of good competitiveness. So if a supplier sees that they are way behind all of your other suppliers, that might be a little bit more motivation that they need to take that step up. And that can also be a way for you to engage your suppliers a little bit more. So let's say a supplier is in a B place, you have an A, B, C, and they want to get to an A, they want to use that for their own marketing to build up further customers as well. You could be a huge partner in helping them achieve that, to grow their business and consequently to be a better supplier for you as well. So those were 2 of the kind of quick wins that I've been talking about recently with a couple of different businesses. Maybe I'll hand over to you, Ciaran. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I had a bit of a think there just before we went live around what I think. And I think you kind of really nailed it. I suppose what I was thinking is, like, be helpful and if you're the sort of business that's trying to push sustainability, rather than a lot of people maybe go, send your suppliers emails. And I think maybe when people think about that, they think we need to send a nagging email of like, what are you doing on sustainability? Like, if you've got a rough idea that they've not done anything yet, then just be helpful and be like, look, this is the journey I'm on, detail how you've gone through it, and then go, and this is a place that you could start. Because I think the vast majority of people are concerned about, well, the climate crisis. The vast majority of people are probably interested in sustainability, realistically. What isn't happening is people aren't maybe taking action. And a lot of that is to do is they just maybe don't know where to get the opportunities to take action. So if you, by sending an email, create an opportunity for someone to do something, rather than just sort of saying, this is really bad, we need to do stuff, but not actually creating opportunities, then that's probably the way to go. So be helpful and create opportunities. It's like, do you do workouts? Do you not exercise? And then not sending them like a resource of like, Maddie, you go and check out this person's YouTube video on how to do a workout. Like, that's probably how you would help a friend out. So just think about it the same way. At the end of the day, these are people. So just how would you approach a person? Probably be helpful. You might get a better response than being than nagging. So that was my kind of, I suppose, principle, but that aligns to what you were saying, Lila. And I just put another note there of like, I suppose a lot of the work I've done so far has been with SMEs. So what have I got here? I suppose I wrote down, I think this is what you just said, Laura, but make a list of your suppliers. Maybe it seems obvious, but I don't think many small business owners have lists of their suppliers. They've probably got lists in their head, so probably just detail them down, whether that's in an Excel sheet, in a Word document, and then, as Lara touched on, maybe just categorize them. So A, B, C, are they an A? Are they really leading on it? Are they a B? Are they a C? Or we don't know. And then approach them. And then the ones that are maybe A's, how can you maybe collaborate with them? Is there things you could do together? One of the people involved in Sustainable Pathways, Heather Davies, she's a brilliant marketing professional. And one of the things she talks about is when you collaborate with people, it creates a story. It creates an opportunity to share how we did this, how we approach this topic. So by collaborating and working with others, you get stories, you get marketing, you get out there, you can show what you're doing, and then that will inspire other people as well. And chances are your supply chain. So yeah, that's what I think. Maddie, coming around to you, what do you think? You're on the hot seat.
Yeah, no, I was really going to jump on that in terms of first assessment, like what gets measured gets managed. I think that's the best thing of thinking about your supply chain, figuring out who they are, what they need, what level they're at, like reiterating both what you just said. And I think the other side for me is like fostering innovation within your supply chain. So like really creating an environment where your suppliers, etc., people that you're working with really have that innovative mind, like thinking in that process. I think if you're a large company as well, and you've got many kind of SMEs and small businesses that you're working with, really creating that environment where you can say, okay, we've got this problem. Can anyone help solve this as well? So it's also thinking about of what you can provide each other down that supply chain as well. And then the second thing that I thought about was around circular economy. We don't think about the circular economy enough in our supply chains, where it is that they're working from, what resources they've got, what waste they've got, etc. How can we think about that collaboration in terms of that circular economy and really kind of collaborating of what we've got as resources as companies as well. And that can be anything from like buildings, it can be transport, it can be people and human resources in that way as well. So kind of fostering that change in thought process there. Awesome. So have we got anything else to add on that question, Laila, before we jump on to the next one?
Well, we've got a couple of questions here, and I think Laila's probably best placed. I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe I should put you on the spot to answer these, because I think you've got, with your experience at DHL, you can really kind of maybe answer some of these well. So yeah, go for it.
Cool. I'm going to start at the bottom then, because then I think that'll help answer the first one. So the question we have here is, how can I push them to give me data that I can actually categorize them? Besides marketing, what could be benefits for suppliers to collaborate? So regarding data, it depends on how you've been working with the supplier before. So is this a supplier that you potentially have a contract coming up that you're about to renew? Then that you make that a requirement within your contract that you're going to stick with them only if they give you the data that you're looking for, because that's what you're looking to go forward with, or you're going to look for another supplier, to be very candid as well. The other thing is, how can you support them? So maybe a lot of these suppliers don't have that data themselves, which is also very, very common. So how can you sit together and understand what data they already have, what data that they can work towards in the short term and in the long term? Because maybe it's not that they don't want to give you, it's that they feel maybe bad sending you data that's incorrect, or they're unsure, which is also very, very common. And the second one, what can you do kind of besides marketing? There's a huge economic benefit, financial benefit as a first, right? So if you're working directly with a supplier, you can find ways to negotiate prices. You can find ways to come together to reduce costs as well. You can find ways to pass that on to further down your supply chain. So it really, really depends. So we're live now, and my phone is on, and I will turn it off. And then the other thing that's on here is, what if you're a small SME and your supplier isn't giving you the data about their supply chain? I think it links in with both of them, right? So either they have the data and they're not really sure what's the best way to give it to you, so make sure that you have that conversation. Or maybe they don't have that data and you both need to work together, because especially as an SME, I'm sure you probably don't have all of the data to send out to your customers. And so how can you collaborate on building that? Creating a data framework is time intensive. So make sure that that's also built in within the framework and collaboration that you're working on. And we have another one here. Do we want to jump into this one, or should we bring this back as well? I know we have a couple of them.
Maybe we keep rolling, then we can always come back and dive back into the next one. Just for anyone watching, we've kind of got a wee agenda to follow, but we will kind of address questions where and when. So otherwise we might be here all day, which I wouldn't mind. But yeah. Anyway, do you want me to go next, Maddie?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to
Oh no, it was you. It was you. Sorry, you go. I need to get my question up. Go.
So the next question that we chatted about was around what skills are needed to work in sustainability. And this is probably one of the most broadest questions I've ever been asked. But actually it comes up a lot in other like kind of forms of questions that people ask me too. So we're not going to go into kind of the deep technical skills that are needed, because that's very niche to each individual career within that kind of sustainability side of things. But I think there are commonalities basically between many careers in sustainability where actually certain skills are really pivotal. And I think it goes back to, first off, and like the most important one, around like knowledge and upskilling and making sure that we're kind of keeping in touch of what's happening all the time. I think it's one of the fastest growing things that we can ever learn about, pretty much. So having that kind of continuous learning ability to be able to keep doing that, I think is really, really important. And also understanding that you don't need to know it all. Like, I think when someone claims to be a sustainability expert in everything in sustainability, it's kind of stressful, because it's like, okay, so you know about the waste to the energy to the human side of things, and also the environment and the economic side of things. I think if we assume that we need to know it all to work in sustainability, I think that's our kind of first downfall on that side. So that continuous learning skill to want to keep learning and upskilling throughout. And then kind of from that onwards, having that kind of project mindset, project management mindset, because we need to be able to kind of categorize each areas and what we know about, and what maybe we need to bring people in from, bring experts, other personalities, other skills, etc., and that side of things as well. And then the biggest one that I think you'll both agree with me on is around communication. So communication is one of the most pivotal things in sustainability, because it is such a still a topic of conversation that can be uncomfortable for many people, whether that's businesses or individuals. Maybe it's because they feel like they don't know enough to engage in the topic of conversation, or maybe it's that actually maybe they disagree with you on some things, and that still comes up now, whether that's in the workplace or at home or in your local community, for instance. So understanding how to communicate effectively, and also bringing people along on that journey, and not sort of talking down to them in a particular way, saying, oh, how come you don't agree with this, or this is why I think this, and being kind of very steadfast. Having the kind of facts, etc., to back you up is amazing, but also having that really conversational communicative style is really important as well. And then the thing that I really wanted to bring up, I was going to show you a book, but I couldn't find it in my house. And it was Bring Your Human to Work. That's the book that I'm reading at the moment. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I see in terms of like people that I work with in sustainability, the work being really effective, or the work not being so effective, is if they're actually being human in their take. So whether we're talking about something that is completely high level that maybe people in the team don't really understand, or whether it's something that actually we're figuring out how to change the coffee machine to be the right coffee machine. So it's thinking about how to make decisions and how to interact with people in a very human way, in which we're not kind of disengaging certain parts of our organization as well. Awesome. Do you two want to add anything to that? Do you want to go first, Laila?
Sure. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'll start more with the kind of inner part, because I've been working with the inner development goals for a while. And I think a couple of those really connect really well for anybody thinking about sustainability. And three of the skills that stand out for me here on coming into a new career is, one is complexity awareness. So you need to understand the skills and working with complex systems, conditions, causalities. Sustainability is huge. It can go from HR, it can go to waste. So how are you understanding what's happening and understanding the different policies that are going to come up? This is a very complex and ever-changing field. So you need to be a person that understands that there's not going to be a very easy solution, and that most of the times the answer is going to be, it depends. And what are the benefits that I'm going to have here, and what are the risks that I'm going to consciously take to go forward? The second one is long-term orientation and visioning. So you can't be somebody that's only thinking about next quarter if you're working in sustainability. So you really need to find ways to formulate and sustain commitments to visions that are longer in the future. So the next 10 years, by 2050, the next 7 generations. So that is something that businesses have a really hard time today to understand. But the best people working in sustainability are those that can grab those really far away metrics and numbers and can break that down into what do we need to do by next Friday? What do we need to do by next month? And what do we need to make sure that we're moving towards to achieve by 2050? And then the last from an inner development standpoint is really mobilization skills as well. So how are you inspiring and mobilizing others to engage in a shared purpose? Wanting to or not, you will have conflicts between sustainability and cost. And a business that's functioning in the system that we live today is always going to first turn towards cost. How can you make sure that you are working with your teams, that they understand that it is actually an investment and we're thinking about the future, and this is going to improve my company in many, many ways. And this is all about trust and co-creation and psychological safety and feeling that you can make mistakes. And then from a more kind of technical aspect, I would kind of second what Maddie said, is find where you specialize, and you can still be a generalist in areas that you want, but find maybe 2 or 3 things that you are the go-to person to answer those questions. So will that be a more technical aspect? Will it be more data? Are you going to focus on product? Are you going to focus on life cycle assessment? Don't try to be the all when you're jumping directly into this career. What about you, Ciaran?
Nice one. Yeah, cool. Yeah, really good stuff. I suppose I've kind of written down a few things here and trying to not say the same stuff. So trying to kind of maybe take it a wee bit of a different direction. I think probably one caveat to put on this question for anyone that's watching, if anyone's watching, I don't know if anyone is. But I suppose this question maybe really we've targeted at people that are maybe looking to take on the role of sustainability manager or a sort of the sort of head of sustainability, right? That's the sort of nature of the course that we're running. If you are, so those the kind of skills we're talking about are particularly important for them. Obviously everyone should also be able to embrace these skills, but I think if you're kind of in charge of the overall sustainability, these skills are particularly important to you. The reason I say that is my best mate Hamish, she's a data analyst for a climate company. Hamish is very different to me, very logical, very good with numbers, very sort of focused on that. That's not my thing, but I'm maybe a little bit, what I prefer to do is engage people, influence people. So I think from a sustainability overall perspective, maybe what we're talking about is particularly important for that role. Just want to put that in there. But I think a couple of things for me is self-awareness. So really got to be highly self-aware and knowing what you don't know and knowing kind of your preferred way of being. So for example, one of the questions that we've had in is, what's your opinion on the digital product passport? I don't have an opinion on that because I don't know enough about that. So I'm happy to say that. That doesn't mean that Laila doesn't know something about that or doesn't have an opinion, or Maddie, or someone that's a real expert in the circular economy. They might have an opinion on that because that's what their bag is. So I'm really self-aware. I know what I know within sustainability and also know what I don't know. And I'm happy to then point people in the direction of those people rather than sort of sit here and blag something that's not going to get anyone anywhere. So I think being really self-aware both of yourself, but also what you know and what you don't know is really important. And being okay with that. Knowing that you're not going to know everything, because as Maddie touched on, if you're sort of someone that knows everything about sustainability, chances are you probably don't. Again, using the fitness analogy, if someone is a fitness guru and knows everything, okay, do you know CrossFit? Do you know MetaFit? Do you know swimming? You know, what area are you specializing in? Because you're not a fitness expert on everything. So I think that's quite a good way to do it. I think sales and influence is probably quite important. So being able to sell things to people, both sell your services, but also sales is really about moving people from where they are to where you want them to get to. So being able to actually sell things is really important. Probably a skill that we undervalue in sustainability because a lot of people come into this with a big heart, a lot of empathy, but actually being able to sell is really important. Being able to sell what you can do, and something that I think we need to focus more on. Lara touched on psychological safety. So being able to create a safe space for people to come in and share their ideas. Again, to my first point, if you don't know everything, then and being able to create an environment where people feel safe to share what they think is really important. That's psychological safety, creating that space for people to challenge each other. And the final bit and how you can maybe do that, and one tangible thing, because a lot of maybe what we're talking about might be a little bit high level, a tangible skill that you could take away today to help with all of this is just learn not to interrupt people. That's the one thing. Learn not to just stop interrupting other people. Create a space where you really listen. That is one of the biggest and most important skills within any role, is just learning to listen. And that will help with all the above. That's all from me. Back to you in the studio.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ciaran. I think the interrupting one is such an interesting one. So we do a lot of this on our course where we actually say, okay, 2 minutes now, this person talks and no one else talks, just so that that person can get their full thoughts out, because sometimes you're really kind of trying to process even whilst you're talking. And if someone interrupts you, then your line of thought is completely gone. So I think that's a really lovely one as well. And I think what's kind of come out of from that discussion there is like, acknowledging maybe what we don't know and what we do know, but then how can networking and collaborations come through that? And being a great networker and a great collaborator is a really important part of that skills generation as well. I mean, I met Ciaran on LinkedIn don't know how long ago now, and now we've come full circle and working together. So I think that goes to show sort of how those conversations can happen, because the lovely thing in sustainability is that you will meet thousands of people that are so passionate about certain areas or about sustainability in general. And I think that's a really good point from then to start networking and start creating those relationships in a really meaningful way. Awesome. So we're going to jump straight on to the last question, and then we'll have a look at the chat if there's anything else that comes in. So pop your questions in that are coming through at the moment. So I'll hand over to you, Ciaran, for the last question.
Great. And just before that, I also acknowledge that I did say I don't have an opinion on the digital product passport, but does anyone have an opinion here, perhaps? Or this isn't maybe the audience for that kind of question, but I don't know if either of you do. Or we're happy to put our hands up and go, no, not my bag. Okay, cool. So Laila, you got an opinion?
Well, I know a little bit about it, but maybe what I can recommend, so we can also keep in time, is for everybody to check out the European Commission Digital Product Passport link. So you can read more into that, and then we can provide more insights on that after the session as well.
Brilliant. Great. And a nice wee compliment there from, I think it's Paige. I'm not sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. But she's been a sustainability manager for 3 years, and this is very insightful. So thank you. So my question was, I suppose, quite topical, right? A lot of people, I watched a TED Talk by Dr. Chris DeMare recently. If you haven't heard of him, go and check him out. But he talks about the amount of people that are concerned about the climate crisis compared to then the amount of people that are taking action. And lots of people concerned, not a lot of people taking action. Now, that's going to change over the coming years. More and more people are going to want to take action, want to get into a career in sustainability. Peggy. Oh, a Scottish name as well. There's next two of us. Sorry. Where was I? Anyway, so he was talking about how lots of people are concerned about climate action, but not as many people actually doing stuff. And that's gradually going to change as more people around start doing things. And the question that I was going to address is, how do you transition into a career in sustainability, especially if you're someone that's maybe, I don't know, late 20s, mid to late 30s, even 40s, beyond that, and you're like, geez, I want to get into this, right? How do you do that? It's maybe a little bit easier if you're coming into it from straight out of school or university or college or whatever, but if you're kind of already in a career, how do you transition? So that was the question that I wanted to address. And it's actually a little bit topical because this morning I did a coaching session with someone actually through the course, Maddie, as part of my one of my coaching or mentoring sessions. And we really kind of dived. I won't obviously disclose anything in particular, but just kind of give you general stuff. Is I suppose there was that kind of idea of imposter syndrome, right? How, someone that's gone from one career and then wants to get into another one, has lots of skills, but how do you kind of then bring them into a sustainability role? And the individual didn't really believe that they had anything to offer. They didn't think that they could transition into a role in sustainability. So we kind of unpicked that and found out that actually, okay, it's not necessarily true that you can't, there's a lot of transferable skills there. So for example, if you're a project manager, how do you then become a project manager in sustainability? Or if you're a data analyst, how do you do that in sustainability, right? So there's a lot of transferable skills. But I think kind of coping with imposter syndrome and kind of getting through that is probably the main thing. And one way to do that is just take one small step. What's one small half step you can do by next Friday to start taking action? Think about that. What is that? It might be reaching out. It might be going to a networking event. It might be, Maddie, you said there, adding someone on LinkedIn that you really admire or that you could maybe get some ideas of. Like you've said as well, like we've all said, people on LinkedIn and within sustainability are generally pretty friendly people, very open, big hearts, want to help, want to get other people in. So if there's someone there that you think, I see myself in their role in 5 years or 3 years, okay, drop them a message. Chances are they might reply. If they don't, then drop someone else a message. You're going to get some responses. So I think just trying to make one small half step and really applying yourself. I'm going to pass it around because I've kind of had a bit of a mind blank. So Laila, Maddie, anything from you, and then I can always come back at the end.
Cool. Yes, you've taken the first one from me, which is the transferable skills, which is what helped me get into sustainability. So I came in because I had a data background, and that was what was needed at that time. So that's what I jumped in. The second thing I would say is find a way to volunteer your time, knock on people's doors, because people are overloaded with work. And if they can find somebody that's going to dedicate an hour or two and you bring in something and you get a lot of learning, that's how I've gotten all of my roles. I've just raised my hand and said, can I help? And of course, worked with my manager to see what was possible there as well. But that's what worked for me. And the other one is also to create collaborations where you and somebody else have those different skills. So remember, we said you don't have to have all the skills. That's fine. But maybe if you're a really good project manager, find somebody that's a really good data analyst. If you know nothing about finance and you're going into a project about impact investing, maybe you're really good at selling that, and that person can then lead that. How can you build that up? And that's a lot of what we do within the collective and sustainable pathways, as well as how can we bring people with the skills that we need to actually work on bigger and bigger projects. And you reminded me of something, Ciaran, that I also had from a coaching session from 2-3 weeks ago, which is you don't always have to go into sustainability. You can make sustainability come to you. So this person had a huge experience in construction, knows so much about it, has a family experience in it, has a business in it, and they wanted to go into sustainability consulting. And I said, well, wait a minute. Can't you just within your expertise work on different materials for building? Build new projects with those customers you already have in construction. And that blew that person's mind a little bit because they really hadn't thought about it in the reverse. So what are you currently working on? Are you in logistics? Are you in healthcare? Are you in the restaurant business? Instead of you trying to go elsewhere to find it, bring sustainability, pitch that to your leadership or the people in your team and see how you can start building something within your current projects as well.
Amazing. Love that. Thanks so much, Laila. I think that's a really nice way to sort of wrap up on that sort of point, because we've got people with wanting to get into sustainability. And I think one of my biggest catchphrases is the role of sustainability manager in 2020 and 2022. So it's a bit out of date now. Was one of the fastest growing careers. It was the second fastest growing career. And I think that's really a good kind of pivotal to show what the need is. And it doesn't mean to say that you go into that role. It can be that within your own company that you become that individual or that role, or maybe it's still within your department area. And I think it's sort of taking autonomy and working in those sorts of areas where it slowly transitions you into those. I have a weird background. I come from running a startup into that side. So I took the skills of kind of leadership, communication, collaboration, and all those sorts of roles into where I went into after that as well. Have you got anything else you want to add to that, Ciaran? Otherwise we'll wrap up.
Could you tell I was itching to add something?
Yeah.
It's just had a light bulb moment when you were chatting. I was I remembered what I was going to say, which is it's kind of touched on what we're all saying, but maybe just to summarize it, sustainability is everyone's job, and it's sort of a term that we'll probably see more and more of now. But I suppose if we're really to move the needle on this, everyone needs to take radical responsibility. So sustainability is everyone's responsibility. It's not about finding a job, it's about making sustainability your job, and whatever that is. And I've got a story on that very briefly, but my aunt is a assistant at a school. She kind of works in a special needs school, and she is one of the classroom assistants. And she is, through kind of my work, I suppose she's kind of oh, this seems quite important. So I've managed to kind of get her into it. And now she's taken on a kind of role within the school around sustainability. So she didn't do CISL, she didn't go to Cambridge, course, do sustainability course, she didn't even do this course. She might benefit from it, but she's just made her job a sustainability job. So I think, how can you do that if you're listening, right? And then you might go on to bigger things or better things or whatever. But that's all I want to say. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. It's about taking that first step, definitely. So if that's been of interest and people are really wanting to learn a little bit more, as you'll find, we'll put a link in after. And we have still got applications open for our sustainability management course, which the three of us and some other amazing experts are running coming up. And there's many funded places as well if you're self-employed, unemployed, etc. And you're trying to figure out what you want to do. There's no need to pay out there for the course. You can get access to this if you're within the West Midlands. So get in contact with us if you do want to. And hopefully this was interesting for you all to find a little bit about what those kind of top 3 asked questions were. And I'll just say thank you, Laila and Ciaran, for your time. Awesome.
Thank you. That was fun.
Thank you so
Same
much.
time next week. Yeah.
Right, we'll let you enjoy your Friday evenings now. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you
All
all.
right. Bye. Bye.